So, you're putting in the work, you're going to the gym, you're eating clean, and you're just overall trying to get better. However, it's not working for you. But guess what? It's simple. You just need to focus on the fundamentals before you focus on little things like supplementation or getting the perfect workout program. Because there's so much information out there from companies, from fitness influencers everywhere, telling you this is the best exercise, do this diet for this, these are the only exercises you need. Just cut all of that noise out and worry about the fundamentals of actually building proper muscle. Okay, so truth number one is pretty much the most known: progressive overload. If you don't know what progressive overload is, pretty much as you go more to the gym, as you gain more weight, as you're able to move more weight, progressive overload is just a simple saying of adding more reps, adding more weight, or adding more sets. Now most people will be like, oh yeah, progressive overload, obviously, what do you mean? But a lot of people forget that with progressive overload you have to track. So if you don't keep on tracking the exercises that you're doing and what you're kind of doing towards the end goal that you want to get to, you're never going to get there. Because if you're not tracking your reps, tracking your sets, tracking your weight, you might think you're progressing, but you're probably not. You could be very stagnant, and that's where most people plateau, because they think they've got everything under control, but they don't. And that's one of the first fundamentals that you have to learn, is that you have to just progressively overload. Whether it's a little bit of weight, a few reps, or maybe just an extra set every other week. Anything that will move you from that plateau is progressive overload. You just need to be able to learn to push yourself to absolute failure. Obviously, don't do it on every single set. Make sure to only go to failure, like absolute failure. Probably the last set or 2 sets of the exercise. Otherwise, you're not gonna like working out. But make sure to do that. And that is the first fundamental of how to get muscle. What I was talking earlier actually brings me to another point, which is the second non-negotiable. You have to be doing this. You have to actually train hard enough to make your muscles want to grow. You have to give them a reason to grow. Because your body's lazy. It's not going to want to grow the muscle. Because through evolution, we've been adapted to be able to hold on to as much mass as we can because we need it for energy. However, that process of building the muscle, that takes a lot of energy. That means that whatever you would eat back in the day, it would need to be used to build that muscle. So your body doesn't want you to build that muscle, which is why you have to give it a reason to build muscle. So most sets, you want to go at least 1 to 3 reps in reserve. I would say is a good mix. But I want to say on a very last set, just make sure to go absolute failure. Even if the execution of the exercise isn't perfect, just crank up a few, maybe even if it's assisted with one arm, just make sure to go to failure. Give your muscles a reason to actually build themselves. So number 3, also pretty simple and straightforward, but it's also a non-negotiable, and it is your nutrition. Most people kind of overlook this because they're like, oh yeah, I got enough protein, so it's fine. But you need more than protein. You actually need calories, you need good carbs, good fats. All of these contribute to your body functioning properly. So obviously for protein, the good rule of thumb is 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 160 grams, you weigh 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein. Obviously, don't go for some insane protein goal like 250 grams of protein. You don't need that. It's okay to have a small buffer, like an extra 10-20 grams of protein max on top of your daily one, just in case you're scared of not getting the maximum benefits. But anything above that is just overkill. You don't need it. Secondly, calories. If you want to build muscle, you have to be in a caloric surplus. You cannot be in a deficit and expect to gain a lot of muscle. Some people can do that. There are people, if you're in a deficit, if you're quite a bigger person, you can get away with being in a deficit and building a lot of muscle, because you have that extra energy to use to build muscle. But if you're in a deficit, as a normal person, you will not be able to build muscle, which is why you need to be in a surplus of calories. Another thing many people overlook is carbs and fats. While fat's not as important, carbs is your energy source. You need good quality carbs before your workout and after to get the best recovery and to get the best chance at performing well in the gym. Without carbs, you just won't be able to have that good of a workout. And yeah, you can, take pre-workout and stuff like that, but that's temporary. It's not gonna actually help you long term for whatever your goal is. Now the fourth non-negotiable is your weekly sets. Every single week, the amount of sets that you do per muscle per week. Now a good rule of thumb is, if you're starting out, if you've just stepped foot in the gym for the first time, 10 to 12 sets a week is more than enough for you. You don't need more than that. If anything, you won't even be able to recover from that because your body's not used to working out. Obviously, the more volume that you do, known by studies, the more muscle you will get. The more you put your body at, the physical adaptation of working out, you will build more muscle. And that's just a fact. And to be fair, a lot of people just overlook the fact that those sets actually have to be good quality sets. Junk volume doesn't count. You could be doing 3 very good sets for biceps and then do an extra 2 sets of biceps. But if those extra 2 sets of biceps aren't actually good quality sets, they're just junk volume, and they're just going to make your recovery even worse. And then the next week is going to be even harder and harder to progress. However, with progressive overload, you just have to make sure to hit that weekly target and try to get better quality sets every single week. Now obviously don't go crazy and do 30 sets a week just because I said that it leads to more growth. Obviously there's, it's sort of a little line. Here, I would say between here and here you have the 10 to 12. At the peak, I would say that's max 22 sets per week. But after you hit that peak and you go over 25 sets per week, it's just a negative feedback, because you're not going to get the benefits with that many sets because you won't be able to recover from that. Now the last one, which is the most simplest one, but many people just tend to overlook it. They just don't do it. And that is consistency. If you're not consistent in the gym, you will not progress. And that is simple as that. A person who goes to the gym 2-3 times a week, but they go consistently for 3 years and never take a break, compared to someone who's going to the gym 5-6 times a week, but they work out for 3 weeks, they're gone for 2, work out for 2 months, but then they're gone for 1. The person who's working out less, although they're working out less in weekly volume, because they're more consistent and because they actually keep on progressing throughout the years, they're gonna make more gains than a person who's in the gym more time a week. It doesn't matter how many times a week you're in the gym, it matters how consistent you are in the gym. Which is why, if your consistency is off, you will just simply not progress. You could be working out for 5 years, but only actually be consistently going to the gym for 2 of those years, and it will pretty much just look like you've only been in the gym for 2 years. Whereas someone who's just not in the gym a lot, they don't spend their whole life in the gym, but they're consistently doing it, they're just going to look 1,000 times better than you. And that is literally just the cold truth, which you have to accept. You have to be consistent every single day. You have to get your meals in, you have to sleep well, and you have to progressively overload and be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're not gonna grow. Okay, so let's go over it. All you need is consistency, good nutrition, making sure that you actually train hard, training to failure, making sure that your weekly volume is actually good. You don't want to be doing too little, you don't want to be doing too much. And just make sure to actually be present. Make sure to actually be in the gym. And that's it. It's not some sort of magic crazy, oh my god, I've never heard of this in my life. It is that simple. You've heard of it before, and you've heard of it 20 years ago, and you're gonna hear it again now. That is the only things that you need to be able to actually progress in the gym. But if you don't do even just one of these, you will not be as good as the person who does all. You need all of them to be able to actually get to the best shape that you can. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Very quick and simple video for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you later.